5:30, and I do want to mention to the audience and that if you haven't been here before that our new audio and video system and that records not just the commission up here but everyone in the room. So the advantage of that is it allows those people that are not able to attend the meeting to be able to see it and hear the meeting and that from their armchair at home. So with that, Jen, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, we will call the meeting to order. Would you do a roll, please?
Commissioner Johnson?
Here.
Commissioner Waldner?
Here.
Commissioner Thill?
Here.
Commissioner Corbin?
Here.
Mayor Lindsay?
Here. You have before you the agenda for this evening.
Move to approve the agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Seeing no appearances or acknowledgments, is there anything you would like removed from the consent calendar? If not, do we have a motion?
Move to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Saying no old business under new business, authorize the mayor to sign the Local Government Certification Emergency Solutions Grants Program with the Domestic Violence Network of the Lakes Region. And would you like to speak to that?
Hello, my name is Christy Van Dewering. I'm the director of the Domestic Violence Network here in Madison, South Dakota, and it's that time of year again. Actually, it's about every 13 months I come and talk to you a little bit about the Domestic Violence Network because we're in the process of writing our grant for the Emergency Solutions Grant Program that's through the South Dakota Housing. This is a federal grant, but South Dakota Housing is the one that monitors the program success of that. Currently, we're serving about 100 individuals per year with the Domestic Violence Network. Approximately 50 of those stay in the shelter. This grant is about 20 to 30% of our budget, depending on our budget year, and it covers the costs of rent for our shelter, utilities, some staff time, and then it also provides opportunities for individuals that stay at the shelter if their next stage in life is to get their own housing, as we can provide rental assistance, utility assistance, down payments for rent and utilities. So that's this grant, and every year we request that the city approve of our requesting of these grant funds, and that's the form that I handed to you last week sometime. So do you have any questions?
Yeah.
Mike,
Go ahead.
I think you said first. So
Nope,
yeah.
the mayor did.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah.
Didn't mean to confuse your is there, as you say, you come every year, and we certainly know why you're here, and we certainly appreciate the work you do, your program, clearly. Are there any differences that you would want to note for us that are happening right now?
Not at this time. We are in the process of doing some fundraising to access our own building. We are renting at this time. If that occurs, there's a possibility that some of these funds may actually have to be changed to more maintenance type, and if there's any repairs to the building. But that's not a problem with this grant. That money can be changed because there is maintenance money within this grant, so we can do that if we would happen to access a building before this grant even starts. And this grant is for 2018, and I suspect it probably won't start till December of 2018. So we're a ways off yet.
Are there codes you have to meet, Department of Health codes that you're required to meet in your facilities?
We would hope to be handicap accessible, and of course we have to make sure that fire alarms are in place and security monitoring. If we do find a building, those things are probably going to have to be added to the building.
Yeah, and basically what I was going to say is that they do need acknowledgement from the city that, lets the paperwork and the public and that are not part of Madison know that they are a valid organization and are a part of the city of Madison.
I'd move to authorize the mayor to sign the Local Government Certification Emergency Solutions Grant Program, Domestic Violence Network of the Lakes Region.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you for your work.
Yes, thank you.
And
We
thank you
appreciate
for-
it.
Thank you
Yes.
for your time this evening. We'll see you in 13 months.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 2, authorize the mayor to sign the agreement, Caleb Hargraves, Law Enforcement Officer Certification. And Justin, did you want to address that?
Yeah. This is an agreement that we had talked about when hiring uncertified officers. Basically, Jen was able to find some examples that had been used by other entities throughout the state of South Dakota. Partnered with David Jenks in drafting this. It's got his endorsement, and basically it outlines the fact that the officer, upon hire, would be required to work for a minimum of 3 years upon completion of the basic academy in Pierre. If he were to leave us anytime prior to that time frame, he would be incurred with the cost of reimbursing the city over and above the federal minimum wage, the wages that he received while attending the school. So that's the nuts and the bolts of it. If you have any questions, I would be more than happy to answer anything that you have. But just understand that I did work with David on this, and it's got his blessing.
And Justin, for the news and that, if you just give a little more detail as to why you went forward with this and that, because it is quite an expense to the city to train someone, and then if they choose to move on, it becomes a training expense for us, and
Right.
somebody else benefits.
It's not only just the 13 weeks that we send somebody out to Pierre that we incur the cost on. It's the startup cost of outfitting that officer with all of the tools needed to do our jobs. So we put a large investment into any officer that we hire that's uncertified to include that 13 weeks. And it's just a way for the city to protect themselves a little bit on that investment and get a little bit of a return for that.
Mhm. Very good, thank you.
This is
Other
gonna,
questions?
how many officers are you gonna have with this one now?
This will put us at 12, with one officer full-time at the school and one going to DSU.
12 besides total?
Correct. So our patrol staff and everything will maintain the same. We're basically backfilling the position that's going to be vacated by Officer Abraham when he goes to DSU in the fall.
My question is, why do we need all these police officers and stuff when the county only has 5 and with the sheriff is 6, and they still have an SRO officer?
Our SRO officer is full-time in the schools 9 months out of the year, 40 hours a week. The SRO does not, from the county, does not fill that many hours at the school. We have a larger call volume than the county does. Our calls have increased dramatically over the past 3 years since Senate Bill 70 was passed. And so that would be the main reason, and obviously we provide 24/7 coverage where the sheriff's office does not have an officer out all the time 24/7.
I'll respond to that also a little bit, if I may, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Looking at national standards and statistics, a city our size, and we've just grown in population as well, we should, I believe the last time I checked, we should be at 20 to 22 officers for a city our size. Plus, with the growing and active and vibrant university that we have in town, as well as many other things, we actually, with the exception of the school resource officers, we have not grown the PD. I know certainly since I've been on the commission, we haven't added anything additional than what we've had for probably, that's been 6 years.
When I started in 1999 with the department, we had 10 officers. So other than adding the SRO positions, we have not added an officer.
17 plus years,
Right.
18
So,
years.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments?
I'll make a motion that we authorize the mayor to sign the agreement, Caleb Hargraves, Law Enforcement Officer Certification.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion
Thank you.
carries. Number 3, thank you. Authorize the mayor to sign change order number 1, Frontage Construction 2017 utility improvements in South Garfield Avenue and South Highland Avenue. And Chad, I'll ask you if you'd like to address this one.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Included in the agenda, well, there's nothing included in the agenda packet. But what I'm handing out here is a change order for the project that you just referenced. And what was happening here is on the Garfield Avenue bore, the contractor is prepared to start early this week. It's been shifted a little bit back later this week, but when he called in his locate for the project, it was determined that there was a significant storm sewer, a 72-inch storm sewer, that was not included on the in the plans. That was, we believe, not marked when the survey happened for the project, and so there was some change. We had to do some get together with the contractor and the subcontractor and the public works staff and such to try to look at what our options were. The good news is that it does appear that we can still accomplish the project with a few adjustments. Those adjustments would include extending the casing, that's the steel carrier tube that goes underneath the railroad tracks that's required by the railroad, to extend that underneath that 72-inch storm sewer line that is there for a variety of reasons. One, it's a large diameter pipe. There's significant loads on it, but as much of an issue is the depth of the bottom of the excavation. To work in that tight area with some of the other infrastructure nearby, the only option really appears to be to push that casing or that pipe farther to the south, in this case, further past that storm sewer. So that the good part is we were able to, for many of the items, and actually you can see items, the second, third, and the rows name number 2, 3, and 4 on this sheet were simple extensions of unit price items. So the contract, what that means is the contractor bid a per foot price for those, and we simply just extended the number of feet for those. And so very confident that that price is fair and reasonable. It's actually what he bid. There's additional items on here. Line 1 is mobilization. That is because there's a different piece of infrastructure needed or equipment needed to be brought to the site. It drills a pilot hole for the bore because the planned equipment they had used would actually strike the bottom of that storm sewer because it is going to be so close, and so we have to use a little bit different process for that, and that's the $2,900 for the different piece of equipment that they're bringing. And then the last line, row on this change order is $2,100. There are also some, because of the changes of extending the casing, extending the water main, and pushing everything farther south in this case, there's some existing water lines that are going to be in the way of the process. And so what we believe the best solution is to simply temporarily terminate those. We can do that without taking anybody out of service. The hydrant will be out of service for a short period of time, and then reestablish and reset that hydrant and other mains at that time when the work area is clear. And so those are the 5 items that are changing the cost on this. The total is $12,540.64. The contractor did agree to that. I believe that's a fair and reasonable price, and I would recommend that we approve this change order. And with that, then we'll be able to continue with our schedule to work on this week, later this week.
And even though the storm sewer is being adjusted a little bit, it's still going to have the proper slope and everything, and that for proper drainage from the north to the south?
Yeah, what's going to change is the casing pipe is going to be lowered, and the carrier pipe, which is referred to the pipe that carries the sewage in this case, will be pushed near the top of that casing pipe. And so there's an adjustment in the type of chocks, and which are supports throughout there that we have to use for that. But the grades, we do anticipate all the grades will work and it will work as originally designed. We're just extending it a little bit longer, and we're tying back into the existing sewer a little bit farther down the line.
So, you say longer, the slope isn't changing at all?
The slope, yeah, I should explain better. The slope does not change, so it shouldn't impact it in any negative way that we anticipate here.
Thank you.
And is this storm drainage or sewer?
Sanitary sewer. The bore is the sanitary sewer. The line that
Yeah.
was not marked was the
Storm sewer. Yep.
And currently, Mike, it's 15-inch coming
Yep,
down,
yep.
15-inch
Yep.
going on, 12 underneath the railroad now.
Did we think the 72-inch was somewhere else, or do we have an extra one now?
No, it just wasn't marked. There was an alternative line marked, it appears. It's hard to say, the survey was done late last fall, what exactly the situation was, but it just wasn't marked, and so nobody really, well, I say nobody knew about it. Obviously, we knew there was a 72-inch pipe there, but, and we should have picked up on it in the review of the plans for sure as well, but it wasn't planned. The contractor certainly didn't know it was there. Maybe that's the best way to put it.
If I may, is that something now that you can put in the GIS system, obviously, and I mean, tag that?
Yeah, it's there. It's there. We're not 100% certain why it wasn't just marked on the ground there.
Good. I mean, I know we had probably a number of pipes that run around the town that back in the 40s and 50s, I mean, they just didn't mark them down, you know, I mean.
We have it in the GIS, and it was shown a little
Yep.
bit in a different location, and we're going to adjust it, obviously, with
Okay.
this. The one thing I suppose to continue to say on this, had we known it was there, it was surveyed and it was marked ahead of time, it's likely that these same costs would have been there. We've just extended the bore with the design and the mobilization, extra charge to bring that other piece of equipment would have been in the original bid and so on. And so that's again another point that I would
Yep.
make to.
I just want to make sure that it gets marked, so
Yeah.
in 20 years when they're doing this again, that somebody at least will know it's there.
We work with our public works
Yep.
quite a bit and try to really encourage, updating the maps properly, and then when we have projects, whether it's for the paving actually or locating for the survey for the planning, we can't take that lightly
Right,
either, and make sure
right.
those markings are put down. So that's the most accurate, the best way to show that is get them out in the field and put marks down with the field crews who are marking those. They know where those are at on a day-to-day most of the time, and more than most other people. And so to mark them and survey them where their marks exactly are is the best. We just got to make sure they're getting it done.
It's been put in about the mid-80s.
Did you put it in, Bob?
No, I didn't put it
Mark
in,
it
but I
down.
worked there when they did. That comes up and goes down and ties in by your bids, Applewhite's old building. Comes right by Winks, so that's another,
He's talking about Apple.
comes right up Second Street.
It'll be kind of nice having that collection line lined underneath that big storm sewer anyway. So we're coming out ahead on this deal.
I'll make a motion, we authorize the mayor to sign change order number 1, Prutney Construction 2017 utility improvements on South Garfield Avenue to South Highland Avenue.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Resolution number 2017-9, establish a special maintenance fee. Jen, did you want to address this?
I can, certainly.
Okay.
This is required of us every single year. We do it about this time every year. No changes. If you were to compare this resolution in front of you, Resolution 2017-9, it would look identical except for the date of the resolution that we passed last year.
Okay.
Same criteria, same assessment amount per property.
Okay.
Chad,
Questions or
anything else?
comments?
I guess the only thing I would say is, we're now putting these dollars to work after the first couple of years. We needed
Mhm.
them to accumulate. Last year, we had a project in the northwest part of town, and then we're also using these same funds.
Northeast,
Third Street.
yes. Mhm.
We do, when there's concrete work in the area, sidewalks, curb and gutter and such, we consulted with the commission and wanted to cut that out so we don't use that for the valley gutters, the sidewalks, the curb and gutters
Mhm.
for these projects. We cut them out and pay for them with another fund, just to make sure we're putting these dollars right back into the streets.
Into the streets where it was intended. Mhm.
And this, of course, is for your 2018 dollars to be collected in 2018. Will be filed with the county late in 2017 for collection in 2018.
Any questions? Not, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion, we pass or approve resolution number 2017-9, establish a special maintenance fee.
Second?
We have a motion and a second, and I'm going to ask Jen to do a roll call on this resolution, please.
Commissioner Corbin?
Aye.
Commissioner Thill?
Aye.
Commissioner Waldner?
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson?
Aye.
Mayor Lindsay?
Aye. Number 5, consider the property owner's sidewalk variance appeals. Okay, and Chad, would you want to address these?
Yes, I can say a few words, and then
Okay.
one of the applicants is also here
Mhm.
tonight as well, but, excuse me, let me turn to that page. The sidewalk committee had a meeting on May 16th, last Tuesday at noon, and considered 2 variance requests to our sidewalk standards that we have have passed and approved by, I believe it was by resolution in the past as well. One was for Elise Feisner. Mary Feisner applied on behalf of her. That variance request was for a setback variance from the back curb. I should pass these out. From the back curb. As you recall, we typically set the minimum setback from the back curb to be 5 feet for a variety of reasons. That's what, over time, we've settled upon that setback with feedback from the Public Works Department to help alleviate future calls and concerns from snow, either from snow complaints and concerns from the snowplows putting snow on the sidewalks, from the current or subsequent landowners. That was one of the main reasons that we selected that setback distance, and that was approved. I'm going to make another point, but it escapes me at the moment. So that was the first appeal. And I'll talk about each of those a little bit more. The second appeal is from Mr. Gary Randall at 421 North Park. We've also set a standard of a lateral transition for sidewalks to be at a 5-to-1 ratio. So every 5 feet longitudinally, the transition rate or the lateral offset can be 1 foot to try to keep there from being more abrupt changes in direction for sidewalk. Those were the 2 standards that were relevant to these appeals. If I would go back to Ms. Feisner's appeal, you can see the drawing here. And then the letters from Ms. Feisner, just dated December 8, 2016. And then another one submitted more recently, May 16, 2017. That was actually after the sidewalk committee meeting. But the sketch you have in front of you related to Elise Feisner shows an alignment and an orientation of sidewalk that we drafted, and we showed it to Ms. Feisner. And what this alignment would do is maintain some setback, but it would also miss the trees. There's pine trees in front of the property. These pine trees will probably grow, and And so at some point, they'll probably grow over the sidewalk, even with what was drawn on this drawing. I believe Miss Mary Feisner has indicated that the most ideal preference would be to have the sidewalk immediately to the, adjacent to the curb. Then it would, these trees currently would not be encroaching, the sidewalk, would not be encroaching into the branches of the trees, nor would they probably for a period of time, quite some time. It's hard to say if they would eventually anyway or not, depending on the size of these trees. The sidewalk committee did recommend that the setback be set at 4 feet. As you can see from the sketch, it's a little bit of a multiple setbacks and kind of a wavering alignment in here. The sidewalk committee recommended 4 feet. At one point near the larger tree, you'll see there's a dimension of 1.64 feet. That's how far it would be. And then near the smaller tree, the setback to miss the current location of the branches would be about 3.5 feet. And so one of the main comments I want to make relative to that is with 4 feet, both trees would have to be trimmed up, at least over the sidewalk anyway. So nonetheless, that's the recommendation the sidewalk committee recommended. One thing I might submit is that if you're going to select 4 feet, it might just be as reasonable to reject the variance altogether and go with 5 feet, because you'd be trimming up the tree anyway. It's just one additional foot, and then you're maintaining that 5-foot setback. I believe Ms. Feisner would still prefer that it just be curbside, would be her most desirable request. And so with that, I don't want to continue to speak for her, but if Ms. Feisner wants to say anything, I will.
Would you?
I am an ordained Evangelical Lutheran Church in America minister. I actively served in congregations for 30 years and am now retired. More important than that, I have been trained as a hospice chaplain, trained by 4 quarters of full-time clinical pastoral education in hospitals, first in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and then able to go on to more training in Amarillo, Texas. Most important, I was chosen to be the Minnesota Stevens County Hospice Chaplain, serving with doctors, nurses, social workers, and pharmacists in team, for the best overall complete care of the dying and their families. There was no hierarchy, there was only a sharing from each professional for the sake of the people we served. My mother saw her belongings wash down the creek in the first flood. Many very meaningful items were lost. Since it was the 100-year flood, we moved beds, couches, showers, toilets back in. The second flood took all that out to her front lawn to be hauled away. My Uncle Martin Feisner sat next to my mother as they hauled it all away, saying, "Let it go, Elsie, let it go." Now the sidewalk demand is causing my mother, who is almost 98 years old, to sit by her window again and watch what she sees the most in all given days to be mutilated. Please, put the sidewalk at the curb. Beauty is of value too, as well as this hospice chaplain's request. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you.
Questions, comments, discussion?
The sidewalk committee debated this for quite a while.
I bet.
These are always tough. Oh, excuse me, Commissioner.
I was just gonna ask about the trimming of the, I mean, obviously, we don't have to get rid of the trees, so, I mean, that's a plus, an obvious plus. The question is, can you trim on the side for the sidewalk and not so much on the other side, or they just, I mean, I've seen the other places where they just brought it straight up, and from a traffic and public safety perspective, it works out really well, because now I can see other cars as they're coming, but
What we would.
I'm not a tree guy.
Right, we have provisions in our contract for the contractor to trim above where he's gonna put in this sidewalk. And so, I believe, what we would ask him to do is just do that, you know, not trim the whole tree. We can hire him as an arborist to trim trees and such, but just to get it out of the way for them to do the work. And I believe they could indeed do that and just do the one side now. Aesthetically, from the landscaping point of view, and having one side trimmed up and the other not. I don't think that would be very, very appealing, but, you know, it is an option.
You don't wanna make the tree lopsided. I would say for this, we went around trees in this town on sidewalks before. This lady here, 98 years old, she hates to see her tree go. Go around it, get it over with, and let the lady enjoy her tree and her sidewalk, and if it has to go out to the curb, yeah, okay. Or 1.5 feet from the curb, yeah, okay.
Is that at the nearest point?
Other questions or comments?
1.5 feet from the nearest point? Is that 1.5 feet from the nearest point? Is that what you're saying? For the
You can,
closest?
what I might draw your attention to is if you look at the dimension on here is 1.64. I don't know why we used 200, but 1.6, almost
Because
a
you're
half
an
a foot.
engineer, Chad, that's why.
Yeah. If you would have rounded that to 1.5 feet, like Commissioner Thill had mentioned, then that would miss the current branches on this tree, I believe. I don't know if that tree still has some growth in it. Maybe Ms. Meissner might have some ideas.
If I might, Pastor, how old are these trees?
I don't know. My mother had them planted, she's by the nursery, and she's lived there, I don't even know that. I've been on the road.
Just
I
more
haven't
curiosity
lived in
than
Madison,
anything.
So I don't know.
Okay, sorry.
Sidewalk committee said 4 feet.
They did recommend 4 feet. If you wanted to miss the trees altogether, like 1.5 feet, like Commissioner Thill mentioned, that should be. I believe Ms. Meissner, she'd most prefer to put it right along the back of the curb. But if you did choose to leave it away 1.5 feet, you'd probably miss those trees for now and a number of years. They may grow over it over time. If you reject it and go with the 5, or just reject it outright, you know, they could choose anywhere they would like to put it, more than 5 or more.
The adjustments that were made before weren't for the ends of the limbs. The adjustments made before dealt with the trunk of the tree,
Right.
so we didn't have to cut into the roots.
Yeah.
So this is different in that respect. I do know the committee spends a lot of time looking things over before they make their recommendations. And the years that I was on it, everybody always went to the site. You know,
They all went there.
Yes,
They had a good conversation.
And saw the site. So,
I think 5 foot, I don't think you damage the trees if you kept it at 5 foot or 4 foot for that matter. I mean, the tree trunk
well,
itself.
curbside does create issues for us because when we start moving snow, the snow that gets put up onto that sidewalk, curbside, then is very difficult for snow blowers or anything like that. It basically has to be removed, but with a bigger machine.
We have the lawn care coming to do her snow.
Sure. And then the other thing we need to, be looking at down the road is the next parties that, may live there. Sidewalk goes in, it lasts for a number of years, but it's the same thing with the tree. So, I guess I'm looking at it from the standpoint here that the closest it's coming to the curb is almost 2 feet. So, in my mind, I guess I would like to see the entire sidewalk at least 2 feet away from the curb. Now, that may mean that you've got to trim 3-4 inches or so from the ends of some of the limbs there, or let them hang over the sidewalk.
Doesn't look like we have neighbors that we have to worry about matching it up with.
They're installing sidewalk to the north and the south.
Yeah, on the other side of the alley on the north.
Okay.
To the south, there's that driveway right nearby, and the neighbor has just a small piece to tie in. They'll put it in to correspond with likely whatever you have here, whatever you approve here.
Is there any reason that we could take this up in a week? Has everybody had a chance to look at this, to go to the property? I have not, so.
No problem on my account.
Nope, I have no
problem.
with that either.
I like to look at it myself. I had not had a chance to look at them. I looked at these, but I had not looked at the property itself, so. If we could wait for
You making a motion to table for a week?
we haven't had. Yeah, what is the date we're gonna have our next meeting, I guess?
The 30th.
30th? I'd move that
Tuesday.
we table this item until the 30th for action.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Chad?
Excuse me, Commissioner Johnson, do you
Yes.
want to table both of the sidewalk appeals till that date?
This one is the one I wanted to, but,
Okay.
I don't.
We haven't discussed the other one
Right.
yet. So, since they are separate locations, I guess it would be better if we handled them as separate items.
If you want, I could withdraw my motion. If the second one withdraw, we can look at the second one and then first make a decision if we want to wait for both of them or if we want to.
Either way works, if you
It
want to wait on both.
I don't have as much question about the second one as I do
Okay,
this
I
one.
know the contractor was thinking about starting on the second one, that Mr.
I think for cleanliness, it would be better to have them as two separate.
Okay. I'll leave my motion in place then for this property that we're discussing. Okay.
And then we had a second.
You did?
Okay, so all in favor of tabling for a week?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, this one will be tabled then for 1 week.
Thank you.
Thank you. Then we'll go to the second one here. And again, I'll ask Chad if he would
Yes,
discuss that
thank
one.
you. I mentioned a little bit about this one when I started talking about the sidewalk resolution where we set some different standards. But the essence of this one is that Mr. Randall at 421 North Hearth would like to exceed the lateral transition rate. You can see on the sketch that we prepared, the red cross-hatched pattern that depicts an alignment of sidewalk. That would be the alignment that would be installed should this variance request be denied. It would be that for a portion of his driveway, on the east side, there would be a diagonal portion of sidewalk. What Mr. Randall would prefer to do is, as shown in the yellow, and simply install his sidewalk straight with no diagonals across his property. You can see the most extreme, if you will, deviation would be just on the east side of his driveway.
So the owner's preference is in the yellow.
Correct.
And the engineer's preference is in the red.
Correct. I would prefer to describe it, the resolution or the
ordinance.
standard is the yellow. It's not a preference. I mean,
Okay.
it's outlined in the
our
It's outlined.
preference, really.
Right, it's what's been adopted in the past as.
It's your preference, Mayor.
Sounds good.
But that's semantics.
I think what we had with this one is basically two neighbors that didn't really get together and coordinate how they
Exactly.
wanted to put these in, right? So,
Well-
and the committee, sidewalk committee was okay with where this is at here?
Recommended approval as requested by the landowner.
Okay.
I.e. the yellow.
Yeah. Right, thank you.
To build on what Commissioner Waldner had mentioned, typically, as landowners are putting in, if one landowner wants to put his or theirs in one location up near the property line, for example, like this landowner's neighbor did west of him, but then Mr. Randall would like to put it in this location, we try to get those, encourage them to talk, and if there's a transition, to have part of it be on each other's property. Well, you can see that the landowner to the west just put it in, and apparently we did talk to Mr. Randall, and they didn't have any discussions.
And I was just wondering, how long ago was the existing one put in?
I believe that was with this project. This
Oh,
is
it
a
is, so
linked
it's
project.
fairly new too. Okay, that was my question.
If it was long ago, then that doesn't apply. You know,
Sure.
You're stuck with what you're
Okay.
stuck with. But nonetheless, this is where we're at right now, and so.
Well, it's no different than up by your place, the neighbor to the south is out and your sidewalk is back behind your two little trees that you got planted, so.
Transition across
Yeah.
the alleys,
Yeah.
at alleys, you transition across driveways.
Yeah.
Like, this is just a little bit more abrupt. And, you know, I don't believe it's that big of a deal here, because it's flat, the grades aren't exceedingly steep on the driveway, so a wheelchair, for example, could maneuver on the driveway, provided a vehicle doesn't block it, and maneuver over to the other
Other
side,
sidewalk.
east side, right?
I make a motion that we accept the sidewalk committee's suggestions of, and the approval for the sidewalk variance for the Randall property.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, thank you. Number 6, consider the amendment to the floodplain analysis agreement with SEH, the no-rise certificate for Task 3, in Task 3 for Task 2 completion, Southwest 4th Street and Union Avenue. And Chad, I'll ask you if you want to address that, please.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Basically, what happened here is on July 25th, the board approved the work order for SEH to accomplish the analysis to determine if it was possible to accomplish grading work near Southwest 4th and, Southwest 4th and Union Avenue, if there could be a no-rise certificate approved to meet FEMA floodplain regulations there. Should there be future development there, leveling the ground for whether it's a ball field or a soccer field or even just parking, or anything like that. And so, what the proposal that was brought to the commission back on July 25th, 2016, was a package. It included 3 different tasks of work. At that time, the commission was comfortable approving tasks 1 and 2, but not task 3. We took that action out after the agenda item, the minutes were prepared, and we deciphered what was discussed and such, and we wrote the work order, the agreement that's you see before you that approves task 1 and 2. But the only part is because it wasn't contemplated to be all broken up. It sort of left some orphan work, if you will. There's some work needed in task 3 to get the no-rise certificate. The main goal, at least with what the commission approved, was to get the no-rise certificate, do enough work to accomplish that, which would include a preliminary grading plan and then the hydraulic analysis. Well, task 3 actually included some of the design work, that preliminary design work, and so it technically wasn't approved. consultant have that in task-free. So what the proposal is to use about $3,000 of the task-free effort plan, not to increase the project should the remaining task-free come to fruition, but just to use about $3,000 to develop that, develop the preliminary grading plan, at which point the certifying engineer can certify that it's issue a notarized certificate, and then the project will be able to be accomplished as intended with what the July 25th approval was. The idea was to get the notarized certificate, and then if this commission or another commission chooses to proceed with any type of project down there, whether it's next year or in 10 or 20 years, you still have that notarized.
You got the certificate
in hand.
Yes.
A little aside, we've had to work with the adjacent landowner, and that's what's taken quite a while on this, for their approval, because where the trailer park is, they actually own on the north side of the trailer park, so we had to work with them to get
North side of the creek.
north side of the creek, I'm sorry, yes, north side of the creek, and so we had to work with them. They are willing to give us an easement, which is necessary to complete this project how we'd like to, but it's contingent upon getting a no-rise certificate. They have concerns that it won't negatively impact their property, and one way, literally, a no-rise certificate means that there will be no rise by the proposed work there. And so he was comfortable issuing the easement, but he wanted it to be contingent upon the no-rise certificate.
Which is understandable.
Yeah. So I probably kind of fumbled through that a little bit, but
And we shouldn't be doing that anyway. Negatively impacting other people's
Right.
property.
Right, agreed.
Yeah.
the part I sort of glossed over is the good news is from the preliminary analysis, we can get accomplished a no-rise, but he can't stamp it and certify it until
Right.
such time that he has
Preliminary
more analysis done, the preliminary grading plan done, yeah.
So really, what,
$3,000 of approval is what
Yeah.
the request is.
and he'll be doing a preliminary grading plan,
And then we should
finishing
no-rise.
that, and then there's no anticipation that he wouldn't be able to stamp this for
Correct.
approval. The other thing about it is, when we talked about this earlier, is whether we do this or don't do this, it's stamped for approval
Yes.
as proposed. Whether we did it 10 years from now or 2 years from now or did nothing, that stamp is still good. So it's kind of, if we don't do it, then we'd probably have to start all over again, with a new study. If we, let's say 10 years from now, another commission or whoever might sit in these auspicious places. Like,
So- Are you saying, so basically, we can't do anything until we have the stamp anyway,
well,
so.
we can't, correct, we probably
Right.
would not do it.
Yep.
Couldn't, because the landowner would not want to
Right,
give us
right.
the variance. And the other part of that, Mike, is then we're securing for commissions down the road that this is stamped for approval if they want to do something of a like nature.
Yep.
Okay? They
They
wouldn't have to
wouldn't have
start
to-
all over from ground zero.
Wouldn't have to
Right.
spend,
Start all
re-spend the
over.
money that we've
Yep.
spent to get to this point.
Yep. And it doesn't even really mean we're doing anything right now. It
Right.
just means we're, with that last piece in place, it's stamped for approval, and whether we proceed with it or not, we're there.
I'll make a motion that we approve the amendment to the floodplain analysis agreement for SEH, no rise certificate, task 3 for task 2 completion, Southwest 4th Street and Union Avenue, up to $3,000.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Bid number 863, review and award bid for transformers 867.5 kVA. And I'll ask Brad if he'll address this one.
Yes, sir. We had two bidders for our recent bid opening for bid number 863, TNR Electric in the amount of $2,108, and Dakota American Transformer in the amount of $2,500. It is our recommendation to award the bid to Dakota Transformer for $2,500.
I'll make a motion to approve bid number 863 to Dakota American in the amount of $2,500 for transformers, 867.5 kVA.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Announcement in that, due to it being Memorial Day weekend and that, the meeting date will not be May 29th, but will indeed be May 30th. And with that, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, everyone.